It begins with a scream. Not a loud one, just a raw, broken sound echoing through steel corridors at 2:13 in the morning. The kind of sound that makes the air hold its breath. The fluorescent lights above flicker, spitting and buzzing like angry insects, throwing long shadows over the chipped gray walls of Stonewall Penitentiary. The stench of bleach, rust, and something sour, fear, maybe, lingers in the air. On the floor of cell block D, a man lies twisted and shivering. His name is Eli Mercer, inmate number 40,972, and his ribs feel like shattered glass beneath his skin. Once he was a chemical engineer, an environmental activist, a believer in truth. He thought truth had power, that if you exposed corruption, the world would listen. But here truth has no power. Here it gets you a cell, a number, and a future measured in heartbeats. Above him stands Warden Grant Halbrook. His boots gleam in the flickering light, each step clicking against the concrete, like a gavel striking final judgment. His face is carved from stone, calm, cold, and convinced of his own righteousness. He's the kind of man who doesn't need to shout to make people obey. Around here, his name is law. They call him the Iron Hand, a decorated veteran, a Harvard graduate, a man with a perfect public record, and a private empire built on silence and fear. He runs Stonewall not as a place of reform, but as a machine of control. And in his world, mercy is weakness. Eli knows this. He's been reminded every day since he arrived by the way guards sneer when he passes, by the random searches that always end with his belongings destroyed by the food trays that skip his cell whenever he dares to speak up. Every word he writes, every thought he shares is seen as defiance, but he still writes, on scraps of napkin, on the backs of torn book pages, tiny notes filled with dates, names, events, the kind of things that people forget unless someone forces them to remember. He hides them under his mattress, folds them inside his Bible, and prays the guards never look too close. At night, when the block goes quiet, Eli listens to the moans, the whispers, the coughs of men whose bodies are breaking. He remembers the world outside, his mother's hands, the smell of rain on asphalt, the feeling of clean air in his lungs. He wonders if anyone remembers him at all. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice refuses to die. It says, keep going. They can take your body, but not your truth. Then one night, everything changes. A new guard arrives, Officer Maria Reyes. She walks with quiet authority, her eyes always scanning, listening. The men sense something different about her. She doesn't mock them. She doesn't look away. When her rounds bring her to Eli's cell, she stops. Maybe it's the way he doesn't beg. Maybe it's the quiet in his eyes, that kind of quiet you only see in people who've seen too much. Whatever it is, she feels it. She slips him a pencil stub one night, small enough to hide in his palm, and a scrap of paper. On it, she's written 7 words. If you want the world to know, prove it. Eli stares at her for a long time, unsure if it's real or a trap. But then he nods, trembling. He slides her a folded napkin, the first page of his hidden notes. She pockets it without a word. The next morning she's gone. No goodbye. No notice, just gone. That night they come for him. The guards drag Eli from his cell. He's thrown into solitary, a box with no window, no sound, no sense of time. The only company he has is the slow drip of a leaking pipe and the echo of his own heartbeat. For days, he lies there in darkness. The hunger comes first, then the shaking. By day 5, his mind starts to slip. Flashes of light that aren't real, whispers that aren't there. On day 6, he stops talking. On day 7, he starts planning. He knows what they'll do next. They'll make him disappear, just like the others, the ones who dared to speak. But what Halbrook doesn't know, not yet, is that Eli has already won. When the guards ransack his cell, they find everything: the notebook, the napkins, the list of names. At first, Halbrook smirks. Another idealist crushed under his boot. But then his eyes land on the last page, and his face changes, because the last name on that list isn't an inmate. It's his brother, Senator James Halbrook, the man who owns half the company that funds the prison's private contracts. The same company tied to missing medical records, falsified reports, and illegal labor. For the first time, Warden Halbrook feels something unfamiliar fear. He orders Eli to be transferred. No paperwork, no trace, a quiet removal. But before the van ever leaves the gates, something happens. An anonymous account begins posting images online. Scanned pages from Eli's notes. The names, the signatures, the photos. The proof. Within hours, it's everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, news feeds, documentaries. The world sees what Stonewall really is. Protests rise outside the gates. Reporters flood the roads. The FBI steps in. The governor demands answers. And in the chaos, one question echoes through every headline, every news feed, every whisper. Where is Eli Mercer? The warden says he escaped. Some guards claim they saw him run into the woods. Others swear they saw a body bag leaving the infirmary. No one knows for sure, but Officer Reyes does. Or maybe she just wants to believe she does, because on the night the files leaked, she received a letter with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. It said simply, and that's when the cameras started rolling. The investigations, the hearings, the outrage. But for every story that made the news, there were 10 that didn't. Behind those walls, men still disappear. Evidence still vanishes. And the machine still hums, quiet, efficient, relentless. Because the truth about Stonewall isn't just about one man or one prison. It's about power, who has it, and what they'll do to keep it. They say Eli's spirit still haunts those corridors, scratching words into the concrete when the lights go out. Not a ghost, but a reminder that some walls don't just hold prisoners, they hold secrets. And as long as those walls stand, the question remains, how much truth are we willing to bury to keep the peace? Because sometimes justice doesn't come from the courts. Sometimes it's born from pain, from silence, from the stubborn heartbeat of one man who refused to give up. And that is what they don't want you to see.